Good morning. Thank you for joining me today for Monday morning devotion. A couple weeks ago, I was sitting in a Bible study on Wednesday night as we studied the life of Joseph. And while we were studying it, two words jumped out of the Bible to me. The two words were, "but God." Joseph had quite a few setbacks in his life where he experiences the interception of God in his life. These two words provide a contrast to all that is going on that looks hopeless. Let's talk about it for a moment. Perhaps it was Joseph's father's life story that stayed with him when he faced these setbacks. His own father, Jacob, after working 7 years for the love of his life, ends up with her older sister, Leah, instead of Rachel. And Jacob's response to the father-in-law was this: "If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been with me, you would surely have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen my hardship and the toil of my hands." And that's found in Genesis chapter 31, verse 42. Then Joseph, the son of Jacob's beloved wife, Rachel, was born, and there was nothing but love in his heart for him, which caused his older brothers to be jealous. God gave Joseph some dreams, and his older brothers, that infuriated them even more and caused them to hate him even more, to the point that they plotted to kill him. Their opportunity came to sell him into slavery, and they did. Stabbed in the back, so to speak, by his own family, Joseph found himself a slave, imprisoned, lied about, and forgotten. He finds himself in a lofty position over Potiphar's home. Potiphar sees that the Lord is with Joseph and makes him in charge of his household. Several times in Genesis 39, we read that the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in everything he did. Things are looking up until one day Potiphar's wife notices how good-looking Joseph is, and she tries to seduce him. Time after time, she tries, and he refuses. Then she lies about him, and he ends up again imprisoned. But again, while Joseph was in prison, the Lord was with him and gave him success in whatever he did. And that's found in 39, verse 23 of Genesis. So the Bible does not tell us that he had God's favor because he lived according to the law or followed God's ways. We can assume there was enough training in the few years that he was raised under the tutelage of Jacob and Rachel about their Hebrew God, that he lived life according to what he had been taught. In jail, again, he interprets. He is exalted or raised up into a position in the prison to be over people and so on. And while he is there, he interprets the dreams of the cupbearer and the baker, who were also in prison. The dreams come true, and once out of prison, the cupbearer forgets about his promise to mention Joseph to Pharaoh and to help get him out of prison. Genesis 40:23 reads, "The chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him." Forgotten, he is in jail for 2 more years until Pharaoh has a dream that keeps him awake. No one can interpret his dream. It's then that the cupbearer suddenly remembers about Joseph and tells Pharaoh about him. Brought into the palace, Joseph tells Pharaoh, "I cannot interpret your dream, but God will give the answer." God uses Joseph to reveal the meaning of Pharaoh's dream, and he finds himself in a place of honor. He finds himself in a place that he will ultimately save the lives of many, including his own brothers who betrayed him and sent him off to fend for himself all these years. As I read through the sections of Genesis 43 through Genesis 50, I feel the anguish of the brothers, their regret, and over again we see Joseph going off to weep, weeping the lost years of being without his family, forgiving tears, painful forgiving tears, when revealing himself to his brothers in chapter 45, he responds with these words, and I'm going to read it. Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, "Have everyone leave my presence." He'd had so much, enough, that he just needed to be alone. So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. He wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard it also. Joseph said to his brother, "I am Joseph. Is my father still living?" But his brothers were not able to answer because they were terrified at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brother, "Come close to me." When they had done so, he said, "I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will be no plowing or reaping. But God," there's those 2 words again, "but God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance." Then in verse 8 of that chapter it says, "So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God." Even though Joseph had made sure the brothers were protected and provided for after their father's death and after this event of revealing himself to them, the brothers were again afraid when his father died. Joseph comforts his brothers with these words, "You intended to harm me." Then there's the 2 words again. "But God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done and the saving of many lives." Joseph did not have the advantage that we have because we know the end of the story and how it turned out. So when he was going through all those things, he did not know what was going to happen. We likewise do not know the end of our story and how things are going to turn out. We don't know how many times our trials and setbacks are ways for God to show himself real. There is always a but God. In a blog that I read, Lisa Appello, in her article, it's called "But God Bible Verse," wrote this: "These verses tell us that our circumstances do not get the last word. The enemy does not get the last word. Death and disease do not get the last word, because there is always, always, always a but God." Have a blessed week, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next Monday.